Velsari ran through the dark metal halls of the star station. Her boots hit the floor fast, leaving small drops of blood behind her. One hand held her ribs. She was hurt badly. The other hand gripped the black blaster, still hot from the last. Shot. Alarms screamed across the station. Red lights flashed. Voices yelled over the coms. Target is loose. I repeat, Velsari is still alive and on the move. She didn't have much time. Everyone knew her name. Everyone feared her. Velsari, the most wanted assassin in the galaxy. She had killed generals, governors, and even a royal heir. No one had ever caught her. No one had ever survived her, until tonight. She had been set up. The mission was simple. One shot. One kill. Escape. But when she arrived at the private suite, there was no target, only a trap. Soldiers had flooded the room. She fought her way out, but not without pain. One of them had stabbed her. Now she was bleeding, hunted, and angry. She took a sharp turn into a lower maintenance tunnel. It was dusty and forgotten. No cameras, no guards. She stopped only for a second, breathing hard. Her armor was cracked. Her vision blurry. Her heart beat fast. This isn't over, she whispered to herself. She reached a stolen ship docked in a hidden hangar. Small, old, and unregistered, but it would fly. She climbed in, started the engine, and lifted off just as security forces swarmed the station behind her. They fired. She dodged. One blast hit the rear engine, but she kept control. Her hands were covered in blood, some hers. Some not-dot stars filled the black sky as she escaped into space. 3 days later, the ship shook again. Smoke rose from the panel. Her systems were dying. No food, no weapons, no help. Her wound had reopened, and her body was weak. She checked the scanner. One small planet nearby. Cold, remote, human territory. Maybe abandoned. It was her only chance. She guided the dying ship toward it. It entered the thin atmosphere, broke through white clouds, and landed in a snowy forest with a hard crash. Velsari blacked out for a few seconds. When she opened her eyes, snow was falling. Cold air hit her face. Her vision spun. She tried to stand, then fell. Her knees hit the snow. Her fingers dug into the frozen ground. She had to move. If bounty hunters tracked her signal, she'd be finished. Dragging herself forward, she saw smoke in the distance. A cabin, old, wooden, and simple. She forced herself to walk. Jack was chopping wood when he heard the crash. He turned his head, squinting into the trees. Smoke. From the west, he grabbed his rifle and walked toward it. He didn't expect what he saw. A woman. Alien, tall, black-armored suit, pale gray skin, deep purple hair soaked in blood, eyes sharp even. While in pain, a blaster was strapped to her leg, but she wasn't reaching for it. She collapsed in front of his porch. Jack stood there, silent. He knew her face. He had seen her on bounty posters. Velsari, the assassin, the killer, the monster. She lifted her head slowly, eyes meeting his. Her voice cracked. Don't call them, please. Jack didn't move for a moment. He could turn her in, earn millions. But instead, he opened the door wider. Come in before someone sees you, he said. She blinked, confused. Why? I don't know, Jack said. Maybe I just don't like the people chasing you. He helped her up. She was lighter than he expected. She didn't resist. Inside the cabin, she sat by the fire shivering. Jack handed her a towel and a cup of hot broth. Velsari stared into the flames, quiet. She hadn't felt warmth in years. He sat across from her, arms crossed. You don't have to talk. I'm not asking questions. She looked at him. This man was strange. No fear in his eyes. No hatred, just calm. Why didn't you turn me in? She asked. Jack sipped his coffee. You look tired. She laughed, a short, cold sound. Tired? I've been hunted across 20 systems. I've killed kings. You also almost died in the snow, Jack said. And I don't care about kings. She looked down at her hands. Still shaking. Still stained with blood. Outside, far beyond the hills, a drone scanned the crash site. It beeped. Target found. The hunter ships were on their way. And in the quiet cabin, under the falling snow, the galaxy's most feared assassin sat by a fire finally. Wondering what peace might feel like. Start with a unique moment. The Sari woke up to the sound of something strange. Whistling. A human was whistling while cooking something over fire. The scent reached her nose, warm, rich, and comforting. Her assassin instincts kicked in. She sat up fast, then groaned, pain slicing through her ribs. Her blaster wasn't near. Her boots were off. Her armor stripped down to the inner layer. Where was she? Then she remembered the snow, the cabin. The human. Jack turned his head. Slightly. He didn't stop whistling. Just said, easy. Your stitches are still fresh. Velsari blinked. Stitches? He had touched her? Treated her wounds. Where is my weapon? She growled, next to the door. I didn't touch it. Jack replied calmly. You were half dead. I don't shoot dying people. She narrowed her eyes. You knew who I was. Why help me? Jack finally turned around. He was holding a steaming mug and a metal plate with eggs and toast. You're not the first killer. I've had at my table, he said, placing the food near her. She stared at him. You were a soldier, Jack nodded. War taught me that killers are usually made, not born. Velsari didn't touch the food. Her fingers clenched. What do you want from me? Jack shrugged. Nothing. That made her uneasy. Flashback intercut with present. She had been raised in shadows. Her trainers gave her numbers, not names. Her first kill was at 12. The reward was simple warm soup and 5 hours of sleep. Kindness? It never existed. Trust? A joke. Survival was all she ever knew. Now here was a man offering her food, fire, and peace. No chains, no deal. No lies. It didn't make sense. Later that day, she limped to the window. Snow covered the trees like white ash. The world looked quiet, too quiet. Someone will come, she said without turning. Jack leaned against the wall. I figured, they'll kill you if you're caught helping me. He shrugged, probably. But I'm not scared of people who hunt in packs. She studied him. He had scars, one across the eyebrow, another near his collarbone. His hands were rough. Ex-soldier for sure. But there was something deeper. Sadness. Loss. Why are you here, Jack? She asked. He smiled faintly. Hiding. Just like you. That night, Velsari finally picked up the fork. The food was cold, but she ate anyway. Slowly, quietly. Jack didn't watch her. He was outside, feeding logs to the fire, humming a tune she didn't recognize. Her eyes drifted to the blaster near the door. She could kill him. Take the supplies, run, but she didn't. Her body was weak, yes, but it was more than that. Something inside her hesitated. For the first time in years, she didn't want to kill. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, at a galactic outpost, 3 bounty hunters reviewed the crash signal from her ship. She's alive. Traces of blood. Heat prints lead north. One of them tapped the map. There's only one known shelter in that area. A human outpost. The leader grinned. Then we smoke it out. Back at the cabin, Jack cleaned his rifle. Velsari sat, quietly watching. I don't trust you, she said. I don't need you to, Jack replied. What if I kill you tomorrow? He didn't even look up. Then I guess today was worth it. That answer shocked her more than any weapon ever had. She looked away, hiding something behind her cold eyes. Regret. But deep in the forest, the wind carried more than snow. It carried danger. And soon, it would knock on the cabin door. Start with a unique moment. A mechanical bird landed on the broken tree branch. Its red eye blinked once, Then again, from miles away, a bounty hunter smiled. She's there. Velsari stood by the cabin window, motionless. She wasn't looking. Outside she was listening. To the wind, to the forest, to the silence. Then she said softly, "They've found me." Jack was pouring tea. He paused. "How do you know?" "I was trained to feel danger before it arrives," she said. "And I feel it now." He didn't question her. He just set the cup down. "Then we get ready." Meanwhile, in the woods, 3 bounty hunters moved like ghosts. One had a flamethrower. One had a net gun. The third carried shock darts and a collar. They weren't here to kill Velsari. They were here to take her alive for a slow and painful execution in the Central Galactic Court. "She's worth more breathing," the leader growled. "Just don't let the human get in the way." Back in the cabin, Jack handed Velsari a small metal box. "What's this?" she asked. "An old emergency beacon. I can set it off, fake a distress call far from here. Draw them away." Velsari opened the box and stared at the glowing button. She looked conflicted. "I can't let you die for me," she said flatly. Jack smirked. "I've died once already. It was boring." That made her frown. "You're a strange man, Jack, and you're a strange assassin," he replied. Flashback intercut. She remembered a mission on Delta Prime, an entire rebel base destroyed in one night. She had killed 17 people in silence. No names, no feelings. Now, standing in this cabin for the first time, her hands felt heavy. Not from the weight of her weapon, but from something unfamiliar. Guilt. Suddenly, the power cut off. Everything went dark. No light, no sound, no warmth. Velsari's voice was ice. "They're close." Jack grabbed his rifle. "Then let's welcome them." Outside, the 3 hunters moved in fast. The leader kicked the cabin door, but it was empty. The fire was out. No one inside. Then boom. A trap exploded behind them. Smoke filled the air. A dart struck one hunter in the leg. He fell, screaming. Velsari moved through the smoke like a shadow. Fast, cold, precise. The second hunter aimed the net gun. Too slow. She knocked it away, twisted his arm, and slammed his head against the T. Cabin wall. 2 down. The third, the leader, turned and fired, but Jack tackled him from the side, knocking him into the snow. "Go!" Jack yelled. "Get to the trees!" Velsari didn't move. She turned to face the leader. He was rising, blood on his face, rage in his eyes. "You think he can protect you?" the hunter shouted. "You're already dead. You just don't know it yet." Velsari raised her blaster. Her voice was calm. "I don't die easy." She fired. 10 minutes later, the cabin was burning. Smoke rose into the sky. Jack and Velsari stood at a distance, watching. "They'll send more," Jack said. Velsari nodded. "This was just the beginning." He looked at her. "We can still run." She didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the fire. "Running doesn't work anymore," she whispered. "Maybe it never did." Far above the snowy world, a large galactic warship received the alert. Failed capture. Velsari confirmed alive. A new voice spoke on the bridge. "Send in the elite units. Tell them, no survivors this time." And on the cold, broken ground, the galaxy's deadliest assassin turned away from the flames, toward the man who had chosen to stand beside her. And the storm that was coming next. Start with a unique moment. Velsari sat beside a flower. A tiny blue bloom growing stubbornly between 2 frozen rocks. She stared at it for a long time. It had survived the snow, just like her. Behind her, Jack chopped wood in silence. The snow was light today, falling gently. It didn't feel like a battlefield. Not yet. Velsari touched the edge of the flower's petal with one gloved finger, then pulled back. "Why are you still alive?" She whispered, not to the flower, but to herself. It had been 2 days since the attack. They were deeper in the forest now. In an old underground shelter Jack had used during the war, Valkyrie had slept without waking to blast her fire. Her wound was healing, and for the first time, she wasn't sure what she was supposed to be doing. No contracts, no targets, no orders. Just space and quiet. That afternoon, Jack handed her a mug of broth. She took it slowly this time, no growling, no suspicion. Your hand isn't shaking anymore, Jack noted. Valkyrie looked down. Strange. What is? I thought I'd forgotten what peace feels like. Jack sat beside her. Sometimes peace feels like nothing, and that's the best part. She stared into the fire. I killed people who begged for that nothing. Flashback intercut. A young woman cried on a prison moon once. She offered her family's name, their wealth. Valkyrie ignored her. Orders were orders. She remembered the woman's last words. One day you'll cry too, and no one will hear. You. Valkyrie turned to Jack. Why aren't you afraid of me? I am, he said simply. I just don't show it. She raised an eyebrow. That's stupid, he smiled. That's soldier training. Later that night, Jack lit a candle. The flame was small, flickering against the shelter walls. He reached into an old box and pulled out a book reel paper. Old and worn. Valkyrie blinked. What is that? A story, he said. I read it when I feel human. She tilted her head. That's weak. He didn't argue. He opened the book and read aloud anyway. His voice was steady, calm. The words were about a lost girl and a quiet house with blue windows. Nothing about blood. Nothing about pain. Just softness. Valkyrie didn't say a word, but she listened. To every line. Elsewhere. The warship received a new signal. She's gone underground. But we've picked up a faint human distress. Ping, someone helped her. The commander frowned. Then we'll burn the entire forest. Back in the shelter, Jack looked up from the book. Valkyrie was asleep, her head tilted, breathing slow, face soft for once. He stood quietly, took a blanket, and gently covered her shoulders. Outside the wind howled. But inside, the assassin dreamed. Not of blood, not of fire, but of blue flowers growing where they shouldn't. Start with a unique moment. The sound came in her dream. A loud, sharp click. Then another. Click, click. Valkyrie opened her eyes. Not a dream. Someone was unlocking the hatch from above. Her body moved before her thoughts. She rolled from the cot, grabbed her blaster, and crouched near the wall. Jack was already awake, rifle in hand. He looked at her once and nodded. No words. Just war. The old underground shelter had only one entrance. The hatch was thick, strong, but it wasn't made for bounty hunters with breach drills. The metal screeched. Then boom, the hatch exploded inward. Flash grenades dropped through the smoke. Valkyrie didn't wait. She fired upward, blaster beams tearing through the ceiling's edges. Shouts followed. Target inside, human with her. Take both alive if possible. Jack muttered, that's new. The room filled with gas. Valkyrie grabbed a mask, tossed another to Jack. Back tunnel, now. They sprinted through a tight, dark tunnel crawling over roots and broken ground. Behind them, footsteps grew louder. They're pushing us, Jack said, trying to hurt us somewhere. I know, Valkyrie growled. So we stopped being sheep. They reached a larger chamber. Natural rock. A half-collapsed mining shaft. Valkyrie set a trap motion sensors, wired explosives from Jack's pack. They'll follow, she said. And they'll regret it. Jack glanced at her, surprised by her calm voice. Almost gentle. You okay? He asked. She paused. I'm angry. That's better than afraid. Flashback intercut. On a prison planet once, she had been the one storming into holes like this, dragging people out in chains. Now the chains were coming for her. Back in the chamber, footsteps approached. 3 bounty hunters again, but more advanced. Better tech. No talk. No mercy, Velsari whispered. Ready? Jack nodded. She pressed the detonator. Boom. Rocks fell. Screams echoed. One bounty hunter was crushed instantly. Another was buried. Only one made it through. He stepped out of the smoke. Armor glowing, weapon raised. He looked at Velsari and said calmly, "The galaxy will thank me when you're gone." Velsari smirked. The galaxy doesn't know what it wants. She jumped at him. Fast. Brutal. Blades out. Jack provided cover fire, keeping the enemy off balance. The hunter fought. Hard, better than most. He nearly stabbed her throat, but she twisted, grabbed his helmet, and slammed it into the rock wall. He fell. UNMOVING. Silence returned. Velsari stood there, breathing hard. Blood on her hands again, but her eyes turned to Jack and she saw. He was bleeding too. She ran to him. Where? Just the shoulder, he grunted. Nothing fatal. She tore a piece of her sleeve and pressed it against the wound. Jack looked at her and smiled faintly. You care. She didn't answer, but her hands trembled as she held the cloth tighter. Outside the shaft, the final signal was sent. We failed. She has help. The human is dangerous. A deep voice replied over comms. Understood. Send in the executor. As snow fell above and smoke rose behind them, Velsari helped Jack walk through the deeper tunnels. Once, she was hunted alone. Now, someone was beside her, injured, human, but he stayed, and that made her more dangerous than ever before. Start with a unique moment. Jack was dreaming. He was back on Earth, under a blue sky, holding a fishing rod. His brother laughed nearby. The water was calm. Then the sky split open, and Velsari's voice pulled him back. Jack, wake up. We don't have time. His eyes opened. Pain. His shoulders still burned. She stood above him, armor reattached, hair tied back, eyes cold and focused. What happened? He asked, sitting up slowly. Velsari answered, They're not sending bounty hunters anymore. She tossed him a small data chip. They're sending him. Jack read the name glowing in red. Executor 09 last used. Genocide clearance. Colony L3. Survivors 0. Velsari started packing quickly. Weapons, tools, stolen energy cells. She moved like a machine, but Jack could see her jaw was tight. Her hands fast but shaking. He stood. What's the plan? She hesitated. There's a smuggler's port 4 miles east. Abandoned. If we get there, I can call a ship. And if we don't? She looked at him. I fight. Alone. Jack stared at her. Still think you're better off without me? She didn't answer right away, then said softly, You make me weak. He raised an eyebrow. She continued, But I've learned something. I'd rather be weak with you than dead and empty. Meanwhile, high above the planet, Executor 09 descended, not a man. A machine of war. Built for one purpose and threats. It scanned Velsari's old kill files. It had studied her every move, and it was smiling, or the machine's version of a smile. Back on the ground, Velsari and Jack moved through frozen valleys. His wounds slowed them down, but she never left his side. She could have gone faster, alone, but she didn't. They reached the edge of the port ruins as the sun set. Old ships, broken towers, rusted parts. But a signal relay still blinked faintly. This is it, Velsari said. I can call for extraction. Jack exhaled. Good. Finally something easy. Then they heard it. Thud. Thud. The snow shook under massive footsteps. Velsari? Eyes narrowed. He's here. Executor 09 stepped through the mist 10 feet tall, plated in black armor. Glowing red eyes. It spoke in a cold, booming voice. Velsari, last of the shadow circle, you will be erased. She pushed Jack behind a wall. Stay down. Jack raised his rifle. Not a chance. She stared at him. You'll die. He smiled. Then I'll die next to someone who made me feel alive. Velsari looked at him for a second too long, then turned to face death. The fight was fast, brutal. Velsari moved like lightning. Dodged, struck, rolled. But Executor 09 adapted. Every second, he learned her style. Jack fired at weak points covering her from behind, but the machine was too strong. It threw Velsari into a wall. Grabbed Jack by the throat. Velsari screamed, No. Something inside her snapped. Not just rage, something deeper. She jumped, grabbed the machine's head, and ripped off its targeting module. Sparks flew. Jack hit the ground, gasping. Velsari slammed a charged blade into the machine's core. Boom. Smoke, fire, silence. The machine fell, and Velsari dropped to her knees. Jack crawled to her side. You okay? She looked at him. For once, no strength, no armor, just tired eyes. I wasn't supposed to care, she whispered. But I care too much now. He touched her cheek gently. You're not an assassin anymore. High above them, the smoke signal from the blast rose into space. And someone somewhere was watching. The galaxy now knew Velsari had a weakness, and his name was Jack. Start with a unique moment. They found an old mirror inside the ruins. Cracked, dusty, barely standing. Velsari stood before it. She stared at her reflection. The blood, the bruises, the tired eyes. But this time, she didn't see the assassin. She saw herself. For the first time in her life. Jack came up behind her, his arm still in a sling, his steps slower. He said gently, You're not her anymore, are you? Velsari touched the mirror. She was never real. Just something they made me become. She turned away, but I'm done running from that ghost. They stayed hidden in the ruins for 3 more days. Jack repaired an old cum unit. Velsari scavenged batteries and wires. They lived on ration packs and melted snow. But every night, they talked about everything. Jack told stories from Earth oceans, music, blue skies, dogs. Velsari listened like a child hearing fairy tales. None of it sounds real, she whispered. It is, Jack smiled. Or at least it used to. On the 4th morning, a ship arrived, small, silent, no official tags. A favor from an old smuggler friend of Velsari. The ramp lowered. The pilot waved from inside. Come on, before someone else shows up. Jack stepped forward, but Velsari didn't move. I have to do something first, she said. He frowned. Now? She nodded. Now, later. A private data vault, lit up in a dark corner of the galaxy. A hidden file appeared on every bounty board, every major network. Inside, recordings of government corruption, false contracts made in Velsari's name, proof of her framing, names of those who profited from her pain. The galaxy's monster had just exposed the real monsters. Back on the ship, Jack watched the stars pass. Velsari sat beside him, quiet, calm. You just made a lot of enemies, Jack said. She shrugged. I already had them, he smiled. So what now? She looked at him. I don't know, maybe we grow flowers. You said Earth has blue ones? He nodded. Tons. She looked out the window. I want a place like that. No weapons, no missions, just air, and a name. He turned toward her. What name would you choose? She thought for a long time, then softly said, Zari, just Zari. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, news of the data leak spread like fire. Velsari's bounty dropped. Some called her a hero. Some still wanted her dead. But one thing was certain, she was no longer just a killer. She had changed the story. Months later, on a quiet green planet, far from star maps, a small house stood in the middle of wildflowers. A man watered plants. A woman sat beside him, reading a paper, book out loud in a calm voice. She wore no armor, no weapons. Just peace, Sometimes when ships passed high in the sky, she would pause and place a hand over the old scar on her ribs, not out of fear, but as a promise she would never become that monster again. Not as long as someone still believed she was worth saving, and Jack did not always.